Love or hate the TMNT franchise, one thing you have to give it credit for is its sheer resilience and ability to keep up with the times, constantly finding new ways and creating new iterations to introduce itself to younger audiences, while still being able to entertain and keep the interest of older viewers too. It's a franchise from the 90s that has been able to carry on really well without heavily relying on the nostalgia of its first iteration, unlike some other franchise from the 90s. That's right, I'm looking at you, Power Rangers. Because of that, it's safe to say that the TMNT franchise is a rather healthy one. The latest animated iteration of the Turtles comes in the form of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie that was released in 2023. It was a crazy good movie, with an animation style akin to Spider-Verse. The plot was fun, the action was stylish and flowed really well, and the music was superb and the characters were really likable, especially the Turtles. This time around making them look and feel like actual teenagers in a way that wasn't cringe or stereotypical of how Gen Z tend to be portrayed in media. Nickelodeon seemed to have had a lot of faith in this iteration of the Turtles, as while the movie was in the middle of production, a sequel series had been greenlit that would act as a bridge between the first movie and the eventual second movie. This sequel series called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, being animated in 2D instead of 3D. An interesting choice that I think was for the best. Tales of the TMNT brings a different spin on the Turtles, as the main gimmick behind the series involves one of the Turtles recounting their adventures, putting their own twists, making them somewhat of unreliable narrators, hence the name, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The show is meant to have 2 seasons, with each having 12 episodes. The first season came out in August of 2024, and the second season is slated to come out later in 2025. The first season consists of 2 story arcs, the first 6 episodes having Leonardo take the helm as storyteller, while the second arc has Raphael recount events with his own dramatic touch. From that, you can probably guess that the second season will have Mikey and Donnie taking the role of narrators. The series also uses this direction to make a formula that I have to say was an interesting way to take the Turtles in. Due to one reason or the other, the Turtles always end up being split up from each other to handle things themselves, getting into all sorts of scenarios that start out as self-contained before all their various plot points converge into the climax of the arc. I kinda like this direction for a few reasons. It ensures the new Turtles each get enough screen time for you to get to know them better as you watch them handle situations they get into in their own unique ways. Keeping them isolated away from each other for so long really helps their development feel more balanced. Since all of them get equal amounts of screen time, each turtle is able to shine in a way we haven't quite seen them in before. Though not every episode was made equal, as the writing in a few of them feel pretty weak. Some episodes felt like they didn't really know what to do with the turtle in focus, like the second Donnie-centric episode that just had him deal with an alligator that doesn't really affect the overarching narrative as a whole. Unfortunately, while I love them being split up and taking things on their own, the pacing does suffer a lot for this. Being made to watch a series of events from different perspectives chronologically taking place in the span of one day does make things feel a bit slow. Made even worse when an episode would end on a pretty good cliffhanger, only for the next episode to change focus and not build upon the previous one, with the writing feeling like it didn't know what to do with that turtle and just had them randomly stumble upon the plot as the episode went on. This meant that if there was a story beat you were interested in, you'd probably have to wait for the payoff and conclusion 1 to 3 episodes later at the climax of that arc. But hey, that didn't stop the show from actually being fun. One of its major selling points had to be the art and animation. Taking the show away from 3D to 2D was a great call since it helped the series distinguish itself from the movie and gave them a lot more leeway in the way they could present scenes. Cause let's face it, if they did keep it 3D, it would have been a lot lower in quality and presentation and people wouldn't be able to stop themselves from comparing it to the movie. But thanks to the 2D animation, it's able to replicate the style of the movie while simultaneously leaning into its comic book art style, making things feel unique but at the same time familiar. If you've seen Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you'll know what I'm talking about. The animation does a lot of the heavy lifting for the show, mostly when it comes to the action. The zany and fast-paced action are a treat for the eyes, as it doesn't just default to the hype fest filled with crazy good Sakuga and impact frames, compared to Rise of the TMNT. Unlike previous iterations, this series is a lot more grounded and features a lot of well thought out action sequences that really take good advantage of their environments. No 2 fight scenes feel the same, and that's saying something in this new era of crazy good Sakuga animation we found ourselves in. However, while the animation is great when in motion, it tended to look kind of choppy and stiff in more static scenes that had characters making minimal movements. It's not that bad, as there are far more worse cases out there, but it's something that once you notice, you won't be able to unsee. But hey, it helps to keep the characters in model while preserving all their details, so you can't really complain. Speaking of characters, I think the series does a great job translating the characters from 3D to 2D. The Turtles as well as the other mutants characters roughly remain the same. Even the new mutants introduced, like the East River 3, got superb designs. But where I think the series does it better than the movie is in the designs of the humans. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of the people that thought April's look in the movie was really bad. My beef was with the model itself rather than the design. Something about her and the other humans too just didn't sit right with me. But man, the moment I saw her in 2D, I immediately warmed up to her design, preferring it over the movies. Aside from their designs, a lot of their personalities remain the same, though in the case of the Turtles, behaving like actual teenagers helps to distinguish them a lot from previous iterations. But therein lies the problem with them and by extent, the rest of the cast. Because they're so deep in pop culture, they tend to reference it a lot. And this is where a lot of the humor and jokes from the series stem from. Characters would often blurt out pop culture references for the audiences to go, haha, I understood that reference, but causes it to fall into the same problem that is often associated with referential humor. That being the fact that they tend to not age well and are made for very specific demographics of the audience. This in turn leaves a chunk of the audience out of a lot of the jokes. Take me for example. I'm not American, so I'm quite unfamiliar with a lot of American pop culture. So when they would make jokes referencing celebrities or TV shows, I would often just stare awkwardly as I waited for them to move on to the next scene. I kid you not when I say that this series is chock full of them.
Make Dad sound like an action hero, like Batman or something.
They're your brothers. It's like seeing one Jonas.
Just like Jurassic Park.
Are you talking about Katsuhiro Otomo's anime masterpiece, Akira?
Think who's on? Was Zuko's grandfather? That's just crazy talk, Wingnut.
Yeah, it was low-key kind of cringe. And even when I did understand what they were referencing, like anime, I didn't laugh because, well, the joke wasn't funny. Like I was left scratching my head because for a show that was geared towards younger audiences, a lot of these jokes and references would fly over their heads. But to be fair, I'm sure the production team knew exactly who their target audiences were, so I guess it's all cool. But I swear to God, I was low-key expecting a Skip the Toilet name drop at some point in the season. Tales of the TMNT was a pretty good watch through and through. It leaves me hopeful for the direction they take the Turtles in, however, I can't help but be skeptical about how long these Turtles will last. We know they've got a second movie planned, but anything after that is anyone's guess. Maybe they'll plan another follow-up series or something. Who knows, but I'll say this, I love the new animation direction the TMNT franchise is heading in. Rise of the TMNT, whether you like it or not, brought a lot of new changes that definitely influenced this show, and I can't wait to see how they continue to expand on this. So please Nickelodeon, continue to treat these turtles well. But that's it for this video. As always, this has been your very favorite slice of bread. Stay toasty.